What is professional wrestling? As many as you may believe, it's a sport in which men pretend to fight each other in their underwear. And guess what? You're 100% correct. And I'm here to tell you why this sport should be an Olympic sport. Michael Phelps has 18 gold medals. Michael Jordan has 2 gold medals. But Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has a whopping 0 gold medals. Now I know what you're thinking. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a fake wrestler who turned an actor, so there wouldn't be any reason for him to have any gold medals. But I beg to differ. I often use this phrase, professional wrestling is as fake as my girlfriend is a slut. There are 2 things wrong with that statement. 1, my girlfriend is certainly not a slut. Well, at least I like to think so. And 2, professional wrestling is indeed not fake. As a fan, I understand the hard work, the dedication, the effort, and the physical toll it takes to be a professional wrestler. What is the criteria for a sport to be an Olympic sport? Well, the Olympics have a committee in which they decide this, and they have a maximum of 28 sports. And 2 of those sports include ballet and figure skating. What are those sports? Those are timed and scripted sports in which the judges give them a score at the end. What is professional wrestling? It is a timed and scripted sport in which, well, the fans and the experts alike give them scores at the end. Chris Jericho, who is a prominent figure in the sport of professional wrestling, well, inside and outside the ring, has made it clear that he wants this sport to become an Olympic sport. He's written 2 books that have both become best-selling books on the New York, and become both best-selling books, and he constantly tells everybody why he believes that this should be an Olympic sport. He often tells us stories of the hard work that he put in to become a wrestler, and how it often becomes forgotten because people believe that professional wrestling is a sport in which 2 guys like to get steel folding chairs and knock the hell out of each other in the head because they're too uneducated to accomplish anything else, which is completely false. Chris Jericho tells us his stories of going through school and also learning everything about the sport of professional wrestling and its history. He talked about his stories that he used to wrestle in Mexico for $2 and a glass of orange juice because he was too poor for anything else. That in itself shows the dedication it takes to be a wrestler and the hard work that needs to be put in. And also the physical toll. Chris Benoit, the tragic story of Chris Benoit, as you may have heard before, happened in June of 2007. Benoit was a hard-fighting wrestler, and he liked to do a lot of headbutts and liked to beat the hell out of people with his head. Unfortunately, in 2007, all his hard-hitting moves came to an end because he suffered extreme head trauma and many concussions that eventually led to him killing himself, his wife, and his son. As tragic as it may sound, it should be as a way for us to understand that this sport is certainly not fake. The effort that he put in to become a professional wrestler eventually came up to him, and eventually he ended his life in a horrible fashion. Professional wrestling is a global phenomenon. There are different types of styles for this sport across the entire world. Japan has its own styles, America has its own styles, and Mexico has its own styles. This is what makes this sport so interesting. This is one of the main reasons why I believe that this should be an Olympic sport. What is the Olympic Games? Well, my definition of the Olympic Games is a way for each country to display their athleticism and a way for them to share to the world their type of style and their type of upbringing. And nothing illustrates this better than the sport of professional wrestling. Ballet and figure skating are graded accordingly by their timing, the pacing, the execution, the technique, and the finish. And this is how I think professional wrestling should be graded in the Olympics. We have 2 guys, as odd as this may sound, bear with me here, 2 guys fighting each other, well, fake fighting each other, I should say, from one team from America, one team from Mexico, and so forth and so forth. Whoever does the best, execution-wise, style-wise, pacing-wise, can get graded accordingly within 5 minutes. society often forgets that professional wrestling is different from mixed martial arts. We don't want to be like UFC. We don't like to hit each other in the head all the time with steel chairs because we often actually look down upon that. We actually believe that professional wrestling is more than just a sport. It's an art form. It's a mixture of theater and sport. It's something that illustrates who we are as people and who we are as athletes. And one day, hopefully, we can finally smell just what is cooking at the Olympic Games. Thank you.
Brittany, what did you think of Ray's speech?
I feel like you had a lot of confidence in your voice. I like how you used humor in the beginning to attract our attention, and your enthusiasm. You could tell that you're really dedicated to being a fan of wrestling. I like the stories that you were talking about, how timing is important, and that it's just like the Olympics, skating, and ballet. And then also, your speech made me wonder why wrestling isn't already in the Olympics. So I felt like you definitely proved your point with why wrestling should be in the Olympics. And then you stumbled over your words a little bit, and I think maybe using cards would have helped you because it seemed like you were in your head a little bit trying to think of what the next thing you're going to say. But overall, I thought you had good credibility and it was a good speech.
All right. Well, I appreciate the comments on credibility. I thought that Ray did a good job selling that, especially with his visualization there at the beginning. It's an interesting analogy that you have to figure skating and to ballet. I think you could also talk about some of the other sports that have been tried in the Olympics before. There are a lot of sports that do the same kind of thing that you're talking about, some kind of scoring on a particular scale. I'm not sure that's how professional wrestling in the entertainment venue that you're talking about measures those kinds of things. So it would have to be an adaptation to that, because obviously, when you say fake fighting, the outcome has been predetermined in that situation. So it's not like after we've seen the wrestling match, then we're going to see the scoring that takes place of their performance, and then we're going to go back and realize that it wasn't, I don't know any of the wrestling characters. I'm sorry, Triple H, is there a Triple H?
Yeah.
The Triple H did not execute as gracefully as, Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's an old one. Those are the only names I can remember off the top of my head. Sorry, not a big wrestling fan. Although I do know who, Dwayne Johnson was, obviously. So there is a little bit of a transition here. It sounds to me like Chris Jericho has been making this argument. If he's got a couple of books that he's written and he's included this in his argument, there's probably a little bit more data about what you'd have to do to get this done, how it would work comparatively, whether or not there's enthusiasm for it, and I think you need to get some of that into the presentation. The idea that there is a professional wrestling that's done as entertainment like this in other countries, I think that's something that most people are probably not all that familiar with. You mentioned Japan and Mexico. I think maybe the Mexican wrestlers, people know about them because they got the masks that they wear in those contests. So people maybe have heard a little bit about that. But some of the other places in the world, that would be interesting. And how do you compare those styles? For instance, is there a way to do it objectively so that everybody has to meet the same kind of thing, like the judges in Dancing with the Stars, given some scoring? You lifted your feet off and you're not supposed to do that with that particular kind of dance, or you were supposed to have 3 twirls instead of 2 twirls, or 4 slams instead of 2, or something like that. I don't know how you would figure those things out, but that's an interesting consideration. One of the things that I think you could do is show that other sports have been tried out at least as Olympic sports, and even though they're not still Olympic sports, that they tried those kinds of things. And I think you could make the argument that says this certainly deserves to be in the queue of sports that are considered for at least tryouts as Olympic sports for an event or two. And I think that would work pretty effectively then. All right, thank you.